second.
All in favor? Okay. And Pastor Asa Dockery is here to do our prayer. So if everybody, I think most of y'all know Pastor Dockery. He's at Royal Harvest Church. And we really appreciate him coming and taking his time out of his busy, busy day to actually come and pray for our city.
Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for your blessings that makes rich and adds no sorrow. Your word tells us in Psalm 121 that you're our help and to look to you. As the mayor and the city council get ready and prepare for tonight's meeting, God, we ask for your wisdom, for your grace, and your goodness, but we also ask for your help, because anything that we as pastors or sheriffs or police chief or mayor, anything any of us do in leadership, it is with people and with issues concerning people's hearts and lives. And we just pray your blessings and your help today, that your wisdom will come and that your will be done, Father, through these, your people, your leaders, that you've raised up for such a time as this. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If at some point you can't hear us, let us know. Somebody kind of wave, and I'll try to make sure that we get everybody talking into the microphone, because I hear that all the time from the people after the meeting, and really you need to tell me before the meeting ends so that we can make sure you hear what's going on. Also, I'd ask that everybody turn their phones off or put those on vibrate or on silent. Those are very rude when they interrupt the meeting, so we really appreciate you turning your phones off during that time. Council meeting rules of procedure. There are a copy of those up here. Anybody that would like a copy, you're welcome to come get it. And we have our minutes. I need approval of minutes from the previous meeting. You don't have a minute? Okay. Lake Blue Ridge Marina Annexation Ordinance, second reading and adoption. I did not bring the resolution back.
I've got my copy. I'll pass it around.
I thought it was in here, but it's not. Okay, we have an ordinance to annex and bring within the corporate limits of the city of Blue Ridge, Georgia, all that tract or parcel of land owned by Lake Blue Ridge Marina Incorporated, and being 1.87 acres more or less, and lying and being in land lot 274 of the 8th District, Land District, 2nd Section of Fannin County, Georgia, and being indicated upon a plat or survey by Lane Bishop and Associates, dated February the 2nd, 2006, entitled Survey for Evelyn I. Wyndon, and attached to the annexation ordinance and incorporated herein by reference thereto, and made a part of this description for the annexation ordinance to provide for an effective date and for other purposes. Anyone have a question there? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the second reading of the Blue Ridge Marina Annex Ordinance.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. Next on the list, Lake Blue Ridge Marina Zoning Ordinance, second reading and adoption. The first reading was held on October the 6th. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Blue Ridge, Georgia by establishing the zoning of one tract or parcel of land to be annexed into the city of Blue Ridge and owned by Lake Blue Ridge Marina Incorporated, and being approximately 1.87 acres more or less, and lying and being in land lot 274 of the 8th Land District, 2nd Section of Fannin County, Georgia, and being indicated upon a February 2nd, 2006 plat entitled Survey for Evelyn I. Wyndham, and prepared by Lane S. Bishop and Associates, which is attached hereto, and which is incorporated by reference into the ordinance, and at the time of annexation as General Commercial C2 without conditions, repealing conflicting ordinances to provide for severability, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the second reading of the Marina Zoning Ordinance and to amend the land use map accordingly.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. The 2016 millage rate ordinance, second reading. Somebody will read that if they have it. Kelsey, we all did not follow your rules. We were supposed to bring our packet back, sorry. Maybe you should take those away from us when we leave.
I've got it.
Oh, I do have it, I'm sorry. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Blue Ridge, Georgia, to adopt a budget for all funds of the city for the calendar year 2016, to adopt the budget attached to this resolution and incorporated by reference hereof into the resolution with said budget for all funds, indicating the sum of estimated revenues as well as the sum of expected expenditures, to provide for a balanced budget for the 2016 fiscal year, to provide that nothing contained within this budget resolution as well as the attached proposed budget shall preclude the City Council of the City of Blue Ridge from amending its budget during the 2016 fiscal year so as to adapt to changing governmental needs during the budget period and for other purposes. The millage rate is 5.77, I believe. I need to make sure that's right, because I know somebody's going to ask that. For sure that's right. I don't see it in here. Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the second reading of the millage rate ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Wastewater treatment plant quotes. We had those at the last meeting, and we discussed there was a difference. One of them has an arm that's about $25,000 difference. Alex and Matt both have sent back a couple of things that were informational. One of them was to tell us that basically what it would cost to do the design and permitting, and then if we wanted to do the bidding through them and the construction administration, the fee would be around $16,000. If we want to do parts of that, we would have to have them for the design and EPD permitting. We can't do that. So I don't know if you want to do the bidding and the construction administration piece. So that's one thing to think about. So let me go ahead and go to the other. You all have a copy of it. It tells you the differences. I know that James likes to deal with Dwight Oliver, and that's who he's used to dealing with. The 3 different quotes, one of them included a piece of equipment that was not included on the other 2. They had a pulley system. And Matt and Alex were really not familiar with that system. So they felt like it might be okay if we were looking at 3 to 5 years upgrade, but if we're looking at a longer period of time, they suggested we might want to do a little more. I think the arm actually makes the mixture work a little better, and they felt like it would last us a few more years. So it's about $25,000 difference.
And one of them had this, correct? Was that
The Lanier.
The other one said they could add it?
We don't know. They do a pulley system. Take it next. You got a copy of all 3 quotes last week. They're similar in scope, and with the exception of the mooring arm component, typical permanent installations utilize the pivoting mooring arm, where significant vertical movement is expected. And it could be adequate for the pulley system that was proposed by Dwight Oliver. Such a system may be adequate for 3 to 5 years. That's where I got the 3 to 5. I would consider caution, have y'all read this? If you haven't, I'll just read it. I would consider caution if implementing only the basic mooring cables, as that system could allow the aerator to move away from the tank center and could have unpredictable movements when turning on as the cable slack is removed. Of course, he then says Lanier's proposal most clearly describes the needed scope of the work. So they all 3 got the same information to send us a bid back on, or I say that they were given the information by James, that James was given by Carter and Sloop, so they should have been very similar, I would have thought. And I would have thought if one wanted to do a different type of, like the pulley system versus the mooring arm, I would have thought they would have sent us something telling us why, but they didn't.
If it's 25,000 across the board, that puts RW at around 71, 72, Dwight Oliver at around 84. And then Lanier, they've already got it listed for 83. Over 83.
He said that was the basic part of it. There's some other things, but that's the big part of it. That's the big chunk.
Dwight Oliver would be about 70.
Well, the aerator represents a temporary improvement in the digestion.
But we don't even know if that's a possibility with other big guys.
You would have thought they would have quoted it. And like I said, it does require some NPD approval and DDR. So.
Since, I mean, we don't even know if the other two companies are gonna even have the capability of doing the arm. And we don't know how much it's gonna be. The other companies already gave us. So I'll make the motion, we go with Lanier Contracting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? That's a two-part thing, though. Matt Smith, the expense there, the revised scope is $16,000 because they are going to have to do the EPD and the design work, the permitting. So do you want to do all of that or part of that? Do you want to leave the bidding and the construction administration off?
$16,000 just to revise.
That's for all the permitting and the EPD stuff and the DVR design. As he says there, it's the design and EPD is the only one that would absolutely require their assistance. Construction administration, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you don't have somebody that really knows this and understands to watch over the project, you could have issues, but you may not have any issues. So I know with the water plant, we pretty much let Tim go to a more flexible schedule so he could be there through that entire process, and it has really saved us a lot of money and a few headaches. So it's...
Are we going to need any further discussion on this stuff, so we need to adjust time? I'll go ahead and make the motion. We go ahead and allow Carter Sloop to do the permitting and what's that? Permitting. Design and permitting. And do we have to do the construction now? So we do it later. I mean, they've always administered anyway, so I'll go ahead and make a motion that they do the bid and construction also.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Propane gas quotes.
That's back on the agenda because last week only 2 members voted on it. It wasn't valid. So we'll need to bring that to the vote again.
You have to have 3 members to vote. Warren. So the propane gas quotes were Appalachian Propane, and I believe Feral Gas was the other one. Appalachian was the lower.
I think Appalachian was 98 cents a gallon. That's the one that we had mentioned we'd go with. So I'll make a motion that we accept Appalachian propane bid for 98 cents a gallon.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Okay.
I
Depot,
understand. Yes.
sorry, I forgot. Depot issues to address.
I added that to the agenda because last week the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway addressed the council about a list of things that was requested to be completed before they moved in again, and I don't think they're still not completed. So one of them is very serious. One of them is we're in violation of the handicap law. There's actually no ramp to go into the office on both sides, both doors, and it's also a safety issue. You walk out the door and the deck steps down. And I actually witnessed the other day someone falling, and I think there's somebody fell in since Friday. So. I think to ensure that we get compliance with the handicap laws and to ensure safety for the public, I'd like to make a motion that we allow the Blue Ridge Scenic Railway to complete the work themselves and to invoice the city for the expenses incurred to complete the work. And when they can do it immediately and get done immediately.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Okay. I know that at one point they had discussed actually even putting their wooden ramp back in, but I think y'all decided you're not going to do that. You're going to do concrete now?
Now, we're going to do wood, but it'd be larger, sort of comply with ADA.
Okay. Appalachian Pretrial Probation Program contract. We have, the contracts are very similar. As I have stated numerous times, the difference in the contracts are that we would have a little more help or assistance from Judge Weaver's probation contract. The other guys do a great job. There's not anything wrong with them. It's just that we have more help, more probation people would be able to do services for us, like fix depot projects. They get a lot of the depot project. Judge Weaver's group did.
Well, I've talked to Barbie and the judge and even Chief Cersei, and they've expressed some concerns about switching as far as, we're going to have a lot of money out there that potentially, they won't have any reason to get for us.
They collect a fee.
And they've been doing a really good job. So, I mean, I make the motion that we stay with Sentinel that we have now.
Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? East Main Street and parking.
The city council has attempted to get plans started for the East Main Street for quite some time now. So I'd like to make a motion to allow Roy Parsons to help get some bid specs prepared in order to allow us to proceed with the East Main Street project bidding process, and to allow the city attorney to prepare a contract between the city of Blue Ridge and Beauchamp, allowing the city to use his property across from the city hall for public parking, including to take the necessary steps needed in maintaining it as a public parking area.
Well, I can tell that Roy looks very puzzled, so do you have some questions there before we do the second? I think I would probably want to read that again. You want her to read it again?
Well, yeah, I can read it again, but the thing is, I
It's
can,
in 2 parts. That's kind of a separate issue, so.
well, I can make 2 different motions then.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
okay. But I have discussed some of this with Roy about, we've got to have some bid specs, and I know the city's got their own as far as the specifications for streets, curbing, sidewalks, But we just need to get something going so we can get the ball rolling. It's gonna be, we've got about 5 to 6 months to get plans and then get something on the books to actually start before the season.
You still have really very puzzled. Okay, we have our own bid specs. Is that going to be your question,
Well,
Roy?
you know, Roy, I mean, I guess Bill could have normally helped us before, but Bill's not here any longer, so I'm hoping that, and this was just me, I would assume that Roy could help.
Since you're being assigned that, I think we should ask you about it.
Appreciate it. We do have some design standards for infrastructure, for streets, curb gutter, storm drainage, and so forth. But at the design of which we would implement those standards too. And without that, it's very difficult to take any bids for construction.
Well, and I know that, but I think we're supposed to be getting that here soon, from, as far as what the street's gonna be, so.
If we get that, those designs in place, as well as the storm drainage requirements, then we can proceed.
Well, so you're saying get a design, and then what do we need on the storm drain?
That hopefully will be incorporated with the design for the street and the project.
Well, what I've discussed with different folks is that the street's gonna come up, the sidewalks are gonna come up, and all the pipes is coming up. Mayor says that.
Streets are coming down.
Streets are coming down, or it's gonna be tore up. So we're gonna replace all the pipes that needs to be, which, I don't know what needs to be replaced and what don't, but I think we've got some issues, we know that down there, so we don't know that we're gonna, so.
Right.
Now, if we need, I guess it could be up to council, do we need engineered plans for this? And we've done discussed this, we didn't have engineered plans from Messer Street to Mountain Street, so it's a lot of money.
And we didn't know we were going to have all the issues we had under that street either, so it would have been nice to have had engineered plans. I guess what Roy will need, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, you need somebody to decide on the master plan, what you want and what you don't want, and then you can take the master plan and you can go from there, right?
A plan.
A plan, the master plan or any plan, or,
Sidewalk widths, turnouts, routing, design basically.
green space, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've asked for that, and hopefully we'll get it. If we don't, I guess council's gonna have to say yourself. So,
Get that.
but, okay, all right, well, then strike it then. Well, I'll just go to the parking. I did discuss with Bo Chance, he actually made a call to me, and he said that he had sent, or he discussed with me before, we sent an email that we could use this parking right across the, or this property across the street for parking. So he said he was fine with going into a contract for no charge, and then that way we can maintain it, keep the grass cut, put gravel on it if we need to, whatever we need to. It could probably be 20, 25, 30 parking spaces.
Is it both sides? Because I know he owns that with someone else.
Yeah, he owns it with Cynthia, and Cynthia has stated that she has no problem with this.
Okay, but you need a contract with both. So you want to make that in the form of a motion?
Cynthia's last name.
McCornan. L-E-C-O-U-R-N-E, I think.
Okay.
Cynthia L., try that one.
Okay, so I make a motion that we allow the city attorney to prepare a contract between the city of Blue Ridge, Bo Chance, and Cynthia Corning, allowing the city to use their property across from the city hall for public parking, including to take the necessary steps needed in maintaining it as a public parking area.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
All in favor? Okay, I just think the 5 minutes works with council's information. So, Carter and Sloop SRF contract. Can you hear me? Is that what you're saying?
You just got feedback.
And I don't know why
I think
that
when you
is.
turned that on, it's going,
That did it?
I think so. It wasn't before you turned that mic on.
Okay, we'll turn it off so somebody comes up to speak. That helps. I don't think it's just me. It might be others too. Okay, Carter and Sloop SRF contract.
I'd actually talked to Matt earlier, and just asked him a few questions as far as where we're at with the contract. And he said that we're on a tight deadline, that we might even be actually over time to get that required points we need. And he said he would recommend if it was a 40% that we go ahead and shoot for the moon. But he said if it was a 20% that, he was kind of iffy on go ahead and trying to do it, knowing we're so close on time restraints that we might not get the points that we need. So that was mine and his conversation earlier.
Mine and his was that the environmental would take a while. And with that being a trout stream that is below there, that's going to take a little bit of time. So he has felt like for the last month that he's been running out of time. And I mean, he may can do it, and he may not can. That's just one of those calls you're going to have to just make. 20% of $750,000 is, that's a lot of money if you can get that as forgiveness. But
Well, there's going to be a lot more contingencies too, though. I mean, that's going to eat into that money because all the requirements.
it's going to have requirements no matter what.
Well, there's going to be more doing with funds from the government.
But I can tell you, if you're doing it, he needs an answer tonight.
Yes.
He should have had it a month ago, but you've got to decide. Because he is not sure. He says they'll do everything they can to make it happen, but the environmental is going to take some time. So do I have a motion of some type?
I think we'll be wasting our time because we're there. So I make a motion that we don't enter into the contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? The zoning ordinance amendment update and discussion. Roy, I asked him to be here so we could have him go over a couple of things that we discussed.
I'd actually, before Roy starts, I'd like to say something on that too. There's been, because there's folks here that's changed to this, there's been some statements made insinuating that the council has been trying to hold up this project. I just want to set the record straight. That is not, in fact, true. The first time that this was brought to the council requesting change for loft dwelling was in July 2015, and then it was again Rick LaRosa, an architect firm, someone downtown, presented it, and then again in August 2015. Both meetings the subject came up before the council. It was mentioned that there's some issues that we need to take a look at, primarily parking. And then a special called meeting was held at the end of August. I had come up with discussed with Roy and come up with some changes, passed it around to the council. We all looked at it. I think it was noted that anybody that had any issues or had any concerns or wanted anything put in there specifically to get with Roy. So, and I had been discussing with Roy for a good while. So just wanted to put that to rest, that we are not, we're in favor of this, but we've got to get some things worked out. It was also, the mayor indicated that the change to the ordinance would have to only come to the council. It has to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission first and then to the council. And then I think somebody in the interested party in the audience had mentioned that Roy had told him that it just come to the council. So actually, Roy, I'm glad you're here, so if you could just explain the procedure, and then we can go for whatever else you have for us.
I believe the person that advised you that the process was going to go through the city council.
Oh, I turned it off. I'm sorry. Did you turn it back on?
Put on there?
Yes.
I believe the person that advised you, who advised you that I had advised him that the mayor and council had to find a decision on a zoning matter was based upon an appeal decision of the zoning board of appeals. And the mayor and council does have the final determination on the board of appeals, not the zoning matter. If we make any changes to the zoning text or map, it has to go before the planning commission, then back to the city council for final approval. The planning commission only makes recommendations to the mayor and council. So an appeal does go to the city council. City council makes a final decision upon an appeal process. And that is what was brought before you tonight, that comment was made.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Well, it is clear, but that's actually, it was at last week's meeting. So maybe, I don't know what it's about. I assumed it was about, what I was talking about was that we've got, there's some steps that needs to be taken in this if we change the ordinance.
Right, if the council wants to make changes to the zoning ordinance, and you take any of the recommendations that I provide tonight, and propose that change, the planning commission must hold a public hearing, and make a recommendation back to you, even though it would be your recommendation for approval.
Which I believe that was in reference to Swan McKnight, and she did go before them, and then she came to us. So it did go through that process.
The process that we have to go through to change anything.
That's what I'm saying.
To change the ordinance,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
got to go back to the planning commission.
Right,
Okay.
but it's been going through the steps, so.
Yeah, she came to us to,
Right, and the next step, as I said last meeting, was that it has to go, the recommendations for the ordinance change has to go to the.
you all did not, you didn't vote on anything. They brought it to you to make the final decision, and you did not vote on anything. They came and asked you to make the decision. So now we want to change the ordinance, and we're sending that to the planning commission to change the entire ordinance, or add the things into the ordinance. Am I correct?
Yes.
Right, yes, that's what I said.
Yeah,
You had indicated that no, it don't have to go to the planning commission.
Not if the council's going to make the final decision from her request,
From the appeal.
from the appeal. But if you're going to change the ordinance, it's got to go to the planning commission for the ordinance to be changed. Okay.
Well, that's what we've got to do. If she gets what she wants.
I think that's
we've
what
got to
we're
change the ordinance.
here to do, and talk about Roy's recommendations too, and to go over those to see if anybody has a question on any of them, and so that everybody, I mean, I know you said you sent everything to all the council members. I didn't see what you sent,
No,
so.
we discussed it right here at this meeting, and everybody, I passed out a copy to everyone.
Yeah, but I think why I asked Roy was to go over that to see if anybody had any questions as to why that might work or why it might not. Just so that it's open, so that if anybody has any concerns, that we address it before we send it to the planning commission.
Right.
And do another ordinance that people aren't happy with. Let's do it one time, people.
I agree.
We amend them too often. So, Roy, would you like to tell us what the recommendations were to go to the planning commission?
Sure, some of the proposals for the change in our law dwelling requirements for the Downtown County area. First of all, I would propose that we change.
Hold on a second, Roy. I'd like to make the motion to allow Roy ample enough time to give us his, what he needs to give us there.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you. First of all, we changed the name from loft dwellings to urban dwellings. If we're going to have dwellings located on other than the floor above grade or above a mercantile store, then it no longer meets the definition of a loft dwelling. If the council chooses to change the ordinance, we'll refer to these dwellings as urban dwellings in the downtown district. I suggest that changes be made to the central business district and not the C2 general commercial or the C1 limited commercial districts. As you know, a few years ago, we amended the ordinance to allow loft dwellings in C1 and C2 districts. I would not recommend that these changes pertain to those particular districts, but we only consider these for the central business district. I've included a map, zoning map for your information with a package from the last page, I believe it is, for you to refresh your memory about where the central business district is located. The existing loft dwelling requirements would remain the same in C1 and C2 general commercial districts. That we would change the maximum number of stories that is presently allowed in the central business district from 4 to 3 stories in height, with a height being determined in coordination with the developer and zoning administrator. And the reason that I would suggest that is so that we would not just have a flat 45, 50-foot maximum height, that based upon the facade of the building and the design of the building, there may need flexibility to allow a little taller building. Still a 3-story building, but facade elevations, heights may be different. I suggest that so that we maintain a visual skyline that will be comparable to the existing downtown area as it presently exists. Depending upon the topography of the property, we would allow a basement or a grade level floor on the lower level, so that on the upper street, for example, East Main Street, we would still maintain 3 stories on East Main, both east and west side of the street. On the Roberts Way side, for example, from that area, you would view actually a 4-story building, but we would not count it towards 3-story maximum height on East Main Street. We would allow urban dwelling units to be built on the 2nd and 3rd floor. Commercial spaces may use the 2nd and 3rd floor. We would look at design and construction requirements for separation to allow that type of development and access as well. Compliance with construction codes for the separation would be required, obviously. Urban dwelling units may be provided on all floors at grade, provided that they're restricted to no more than 50% of the floor space of the at-grade floor and be oriented to the rear of the retail space so that we maintain all retail and mercantile office space on our downtown streets and central business district. Approval of on-grade units would be subject to approval of the zoning administrator and the building official. For parking, I would suggest that we have 2 parking spaces per urban dwelling unit. Parking spaces may be on-site or they may be provided off-site. All proposed off-site parking would be subject to review and approval of the zoning administrator. Off-site parking for urban dwelling units must be located within the central business districts. Urban dwelling units per building must average 1,000 square foot of living space. That's an average. All buildings housing a combination of mixed uses that include residential use shall be protected with a sprinkler system that complies with NFPA National Fire Protection Association requirements. A dumpster for refuse pickup must be provided and properly screened. Screening materials must complement the construction of the building that is associated. I also suggest that you consider the adoption of Appendix D, Fire Districts, with revisions that is found in the latest edition of the International Building Code as adopted by the state of Georgia. And I've included a copy of that Appendix D for your review.
Anybody have any questions for Roy? What's your question?
Roberts Way is getting a basement level and 3 stories above it, is that right? What about the other side of the street? We're at the same level as Roberts Way. Do we get a basement level and 3 stories above it?
No.
Okay, why?
Difference in topography. The difference in topography, we have a lower elevation from the east side of East Main Street that drops down. If we had a 3-story maximum building on that side, it would be actually 1 story lower than the buildings on the east side of East Main Street. And what I'd like to try to do is maintain the continuity of the skylines of the buildings that exist at that.
So the drop between East Main Street and Roberts Way is more exaggerated than West First Street and West Main Street.
I would think so.
You think?
It's on the slope like that.
I can barely walk up the other one either.
Yours is pretty flat, really.
That's just a suggestion. The council can maintain 4 stories if they choose to do so.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah. That was the reason behind it.
And we don't know, I mean, we've talked about the Temple project. I mean, that's been a big topic. Brendan, is that going to affect your project? Is that what you're hoping the city is looking at doing? Are you doing those individually? Is that what we're looking at? That 4 units?
I'm sorry.
Are you looking at, did you hear what we were talking about in our ordinance?
Yes.
Was there anything that you had a question about? I mean, you're a developer, you do this all the time. What
No, I've
question?
had discussions with Roy previously to this meeting, so.
We didn't have the limit on 4 units. you asked.
Oh, did I not see that? 4 units per building?
No.
Oh, 1,000 square feet. Just on
Square foot,
the-
average square footage for each unit. In the C2 and C1, we would maintain the maximum number of 4 units in those commercial areas, but not in the central business district.
One, I know I've mentioned to you before, is there a maximum of bedrooms?
No.
Well, that's a concern to me because if we're only going to allow two, have them only have 2 parking spaces, the more bedrooms you got, the more people, the more vehicles you have. So,
2 is a normal
how
standard.
many was y'all proposing to have?
2 per unit, 2 assigned parking places per unit.
But how many bedrooms in each unit are, is it just vary?
It would vary, 2 bedrooms, for instance, some have 3, but across the board, 2 assigned parking places per unit. That's pretty much standard. For instance, like in Rome, theirs is 1.25 parking spaces per unit, so that's weird. So it's really not, the parking spaces really doesn't correlate that with how many bedrooms. It's per unit.
Yeah, generally you'll have probably 2 adults driving per unit, and if there are more bedrooms, children, et cetera, that's normally that.
Well, we've got parking problem, so that's why it's a concern to me. So,
I'm just saying generally that's how it is.
So,
Most cities that are tracking have parking.
if you could, if that would be the only thing, if you could research and see if there's, if that's ever anything that cities do, is that allow a limit on bedrooms versus the parking.
I think your square foot might be that too. Well, it's a minimum of 1,000 square feet. You couldn't really, so there's not a maximum, so you could have a 6,000 square foot apartment.
Yeah, with 10 bedrooms and 2 parking spaces. So, I mean,
If you don't get any more, then
Which is pretty unrealistic, because how many adults are going to live together like that, drive
well, I mean, there again, then it brings up another issue, is it gonna be a, because in CBD, it can be nightly, rentals, and if it's nightly rentals, then yes, 3 bedrooms would have 3 couples, that's 3 vehicles.
It could.
Just want to cover all the bases on the parking issues, so if you could just, maybe research that, and then, I know you mentioned to me that on the Temple property specifically, of maybe doing a different zone for them.
No.
You don't want to, you don't.
I didn't, that wasn't my suggestion.
Okay.
I think there was some suggestions that could be done, and something you can do that. But we have an existing central business district. If we can incorporate these changes into the central business district, there's no need in changing for a separate zoning district out over there. And I have kept the parking standard in the go from 1.25 spaces to 1.5 spaces to allowing 5% of the required off-street spacing for residential to actually be on the public parking spaces. But actually, some communities and departments didn't really have any requirements for parking for all dwellings in their community.
All right.
But that's pretty much an industry standard per unit. Today, with subdivision built or apartments, we would require 2 spaces for an apartment building today, or a single family home we purchase and reduce today.
I had asked Roy to go ahead and start working toward an ordinance so that we could get that to Southland. Basically, from the information that we had, get the 2 parking places, and so I guess if y'all are okay with that, we need to just move forward, but if you want to make a change, I think now's a good time to tell him so that we can get some paperwork back. If there's something you don't like, speak now or forever hold your peace. We'll do that form of a motion.
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and move forward with Roy's recommendation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. I'll proceed with bringing this before the planning commission on your behalf.
Okay. How long will that be?
I'll check and see if we can make next month's meeting. We have an 5 period, and I'm not sure if we can make it at this point.
Sounds good, thank you. Charter violation investigation added to the agenda by Councilmember Angie Hart.
Yes, based on documentation supporting violations of the city charter and state law, the council is obligated by the charter to take action, including but not limited to an investigation. In order to be fair to all parties concerned and to ensure that the charter is upheld, it would be appropriate to hire a third party that specializes in municipal and government law to conduct an official investigation of city charter and state law violations. I'm going to make a motion to that we hire Gerard and Davis Law Firm to conduct an investigation of any city charter or state law violations that may have been made by the mayor.
How do we know that's a third-party, impartial person? How did you get your name?
Actually, David Siphon had recommended him, and I talked to the post commissioners of the county. They used him on some issues that they had.
So what are those violations do you have that you have a reason to actually
There's a motion on the floor.
And I have to like to ask the question. There's a motion, there can be discussion in between.
Actually, I'm heading to the policy.
I have a right to ask that question.
Okay, well, ask your question.
So which one of those 6 violations can you give me that is a reason?
I've got a folder full, but I don't, this is not what the motion's about. I made a motion, and the council can make the decision.
Okay.
I mean, you shouldn't have a problem. You stated last week that there's, you're in compliance with everything.
Well, and he also asked in his first thing that night was to have all council, any violations. We didn't ask for all
Well,
council to be investigated.
Actually, let's change the motion then. I'll change the motion. I make a motion to hire Gerard and Davis Law Firm to conduct an investigation of any city charter or state law violations that may have been made by the mayor or council member.
Do I have a second?
What's that?
All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Second budget hearing for the 2016 budget for the City of Blue Ridge. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Blue Ridge, Georgia, to adopt a budget for all funds of the city for the calendar year 2016, to adopt the budget attached to the resolution and incorporated by reference hereof into the resolution and with said budget for all the funds indicating the sum of estimated revenues, as well as the sum of expected expenditures, to provide for a balanced budget for the 2016 fiscal year, to provide that nothing contained within this budget resolution as well as the attached proposed budget shall preclude the City Council of the City of Blue Ridge from amending its budget during the 2016 fiscal year so as to adapt to changing governmental needs during the budget period and for other purposes. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we adopt the 2016 budget resolution.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Kelsey, is that on here twice?
That's what I was just looking at.
I think you skipped 16, which was the budget hearing, or you just, you accept the December budget hearing, and then it's the budget resolution.
I didn't have the first one in there. Here it is. Yeah, I did have this budget summary. Yeah, here's the resolution. Okay. Have the budget summary, but I don't have the resolution. Okay, a resolution by the City Council of the, well, since we're on that, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Well, I think we're kind of out of order, I think. aren't we?
Yeah, we skipped.
But we had a motion, can we not just go ahead and do that?
Yeah, out of order.
Well, you did one in the beginning, your first reading.
That was
Oh,
the village, right?
okay. So are we on 16 or 17?
Yeah, I think
17?
16.
That's 16. That's a,
We kind of got jumbled up there.
that one's my 16, right?
I guess just go ahead and ask. for a motion.
Do I have a motion for the 2016 budget resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept the 2016 budget resolution.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
That's what we need to do.
Or 16 is the one that we did.
No, 16, we done 17.
We accepted the,
Second budget hearing for the 2016 budget for the city of Blue Ridge.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? There's too many budget things in there, too far apart. Okay. Blue Ridge Scenic Railway lease and drive-in lease, city property sale on Summit Street. I had added that back because we're still kind of out there with knowing what to do. I don't think I added the Blue Ridge Scenic Railroad lease. I think Angie Harp actually added that. So I'll let her talk about that one in a minute. But the drive-in, the sale of the property to Mr. Sisson. He is wanting to buy property, as you know. What are we going to do?
I talked to David Siphon. He is actually supposed to get some information back to me that has not, because he got back to me, he does, about the lease.
Actually, he sent a memorandum to all of us.
I did not get that. When did he send it?
Yesterday, I believe.
Nope, I did not get that.
Yeah, it's in your packet.
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He said that the lease, the driving lease is valid for until 2022, that once you get to 2022, there's no monetary amount named, it has to be renegotiated, so the contract ends at 2022.
We actually, Mr. Setzer, I have gone through some previous emails, and David Siphon had started a lease. Actually, Michael Eaton made a motion back in 2011, and he stated in an email to David Siphon that the lease, that we had recently discovered that the buildings are now property of the City of Blue Ridge, and that the lease needed to be revised. At that time, Mr. Siphon agreed with him, so he started the lease. So my question to David Siphon is, what makes you flip-flop what you're feeling? Is it because you're having pressure from the council? I'm not really sure. He's actually started the lease. We never did get it finalized, but now he says we don't need to do that.
The reason that was done was because,
Hey, you're not on the agenda.
I'm just explaining it, my name was
So,
Kendra.
anyway, I think I need to discuss that with him further, and he did not send me this, so we need to definitely make sure, what's going on there, because he's flip-flopping.
I can explain that if anybody wants to hear.
If he thinks it's a valid lease, why did he take the direction of Mr. Eaton and start writing a new lease at that time, or giving Mr. Eaton direction to write one? And he advised him at least 5 different occasions that the amount of the lease needed to be looked at more carefully by the council as well as the length of the lease. So, he's contradicting himself. So maybe we should get another opinion from another attorney, since he's obviously contradicting himself. I'll be glad to call GMA tomorrow and find out. Does anyone have a problem with that? Since Mr. Siphon is obviously all over the board with this. He can't make it.
According to you.
He can't, I can show you the emails. I'll be glad to meet with you tomorrow.
Maybe you pass it if you send it over to council, that would be good.
I would be glad to. But I feel like we need to get an attorney who's prepared to make a definite decision, because he's all over the board with this. He's going, one council member calls him and says one thing, and another calls him and tells him this. He's doing whatever the council members want him to do. He's acting as our attorney.
Well, I think from my conversation is he said you asked him to check into the validity of the lease or invalidity of the lease, and that's what the memorandum was about.
And that's exactly what Mr. Eaton did too, and he started giving Mr. Eaton direction on how to write a lease. And he wrote at least, this went on for months. I have every email.
I'm very aware.
I actually, with Mr. Siphon, questioned his ability and asked for every email between him and Mr. Eaton. And I'm actually preparing a timeline timeline that I will present at the next council meeting. Because there are some very questionable things that happened during that time. So I will be glad to prepare my timeline, present it to you guys, present it to the public at the next meeting. Does that sound okay? Because I think it's something we all need to look at. Just the timeline of events that happened with that particular process. They're all very questionable. Even the length is a 30-year lease. It's for $500. The train pays $300. I'm sorry, $3,000. Don't you wish you paid $300? But you might could if they're paying $5. So I mean, these are things that need to be looked at by this council. We have a fiduciary duty to our citizens. And if we don't look into this, that's a crying shame.
But I guess my biggest question is, do we tell Mr. Sisson we are not selling him the property? He's trying to build a building.
Well, I don't think at this point you can, because
So that's my big question.
Mr. Setzer has stated that he will not allow us, because he has a signed contract with the city, or an invalid contract, in my opinion, unless we reduce his rent from $500. Because we won't sell 1/16 of an acre of 12 acres that he leases in conjunction with, he leases the 12 acres plus a $274,000 stream, buildings, and the 12 acres for $500. And then he wants,
Reduction in income,
from Mr. Setzer's attorney, he contacted Mr. Seidman.
I didn't see that.
There was a
in the
letter,
email.
it was a letter. Yeah. David wrote it. David
I mean, I read his email, but I didn't see reduction in lease.
But, so that's my question, Mr. Sisson. Does anybody have an answer for him?
Well, we can't, so.
Okay.
This is resolved.
Then Angie, your part was Blue Ridge Scenic Railway, I think.
That was actually put on the agenda last week, I think. I guess it was on there, but,
Yes, I'll make a motion to extend the time to finish the
I'll second.
All in favor?
5 minutes.
So that was on the agenda before, I mean, you know, I guess because it's coming up. But, you know, now that we're talking about it, I had a conversation with Mr. Dyer and Mr. Long. I talked to council members. I don't think any of us have a problem with the railway. I mean, they do a lot for Blue Ridge. So I guess maybe we could all be thinking, as far as my part of the contract's good, and, you know, so it's just a matter of signing a new lease. But, you know, we've got a few months to do that, but I discussed some of my concerns with them, and really my thing was just parking, you know, parking on East Main Street. And I think I mentioned to them that the only way to really stop that from happening would be to have limited parking on East Main Street. That's probably a good idea. And then the buses, the tour buses coming around by the depot onto Depot Street. You know, I know the master plan shows that not to allow that, but they've exhausted all other avenues. That's the only way they're going to be able to do it. So if they've done everything and that's the only way you can get the tour buses out of there, then it is what it is. So I'm good with that. The only other issue that I had was the dumpster. I'd like to see the dumpster closed in or moved somewhere. They indicated to me that it's not really feasible for them to move it somewhere. They've got too much trash. So that was the only things that I had concerns about. Anybody else has any concerns? We can discuss that, I guess, before they.
Well, I think my concern is, I know you had mentioned a change in the lease, so you're saying now that you're okay with the amount they're paying?
Oh, I've not said anything about a change in the lease.
But you said about the money amount. You had mentioned that. Okay. So you're good with what they're paying?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all want to make that in the form of a motion, so we can go ahead and get that off the table? Since it's going to renew next year and Laisha needs to budget for it. So since you decided that's okay?
Well, we actually need the attorney to, it's going to be renewal, so the attorney actually, I mean, the charter needs to look at the contract, regardless whether it's just renewing. So, you know, I mean, if it's, we have him look at it, if everything's good and nothing needs to be changed, then, yeah, the next meeting we can.
I think he wrote that lease, I believe the city attorney we have now wrote it. So you're good with the money amount?
Yes.
Okay, good. So do we want to do that in the form of a motion to send it to David to go ahead and let him draw up a lease?
I'll make a motion that we have the city attorney review the current contract, and if it's good with it being renewed, then at the next meeting, we can approve the contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? 2 vendor quotes for the purchase of tires. Got 2 in here, Sutton Tire and Nicholson Tire. Sutton Tire is $6,677.41. Nicholson Tire is $11,118. I didn't get them. I don't know where they're from. I've heard of it, but I don't know where they're from.
I mean, are they all quoting the same thing? This happens in a little more detail.
I think you're actually one more set of tires and seven. But they're still cheaper.
Sutton's getting one more set, not the one last.
Yeah, one more set.
There's still
Older
less.
car tires, this is,
Plus the lead.
plus the lead weights. Yep.
Did Tony have a recommendation?
4,500.
I think he would have quoted the same tires.
Big price difference.
Okay, so do you have a,
Sutton is the lowest, and it seems to be what it's one more set of tires. I'll make a motion to go with Sutton Tire.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. I can actually do, well, no, I need to do it separately. Mayor motorcade resolution, I had thought that y'all had already gotten a copy of this. We did get a copy actually in your GMA newsletter about the mayor's motorcade. Miss Vanderveer that started the mayor's motorcade is actually turning 90 this year, and they're wanting all cities that will to do a resolution. They have, the motorcade does, they collect and take clothes and personal items to folks in the state mental hospitals. There are currently about 12,000 people that go through there, so it's one of those things where they have the need, they need soaps, shampoos, pajamas, socks, things like that. And I did do I did take up stuff last year to take down. So I'm asking that we do the resolution and send it in with the rest of the city so that we are part of that. So that's my first part of the Mayor's Motorcade. So if you've not been involved, it's something you might want to get involved in. A lot of the folks that go to the state mental hospitals don't have any family or any support out there. Some of them have mental disabilities, some of them have physical disabilities, but they're kind of left there. They may be there from the time they're a young child till they get older. So a lot of them don't have somebody come in and bring them new socks or bring them other things. So it's pretty sad. So can we do a resolution for December the 1st?
I'll make a motion to do a resolution for the Mayor's Motorcade for December 1st.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Mayor reports. Mayor's Motorcade was one of the things that I had on my report. I wanted to make sure and let everybody know that we will do some collection boxes in a couple of places, and that's what I did basically last year. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was Gov Deals. We are going to have some things that we're going to need to do salvage on at the city. There's some items at the, well, there's cars, there's equipment pieces that we're just needing to get rid of. So I think if we do them on Gov Deals, it's a more fair practice in my opinion. That way it's not part of the city hall having to do it. We put them online with them. They do the advertising. It goes out. A lot of cities look up and buy things from there. Like if they're needing to buy a piece of equipment or a tractor or even a police car or something, they go on Gov Deals and buy them a lot of times. So I wanted to talk about us even looking at doing that. So if you've never been on Gov Deals, it's something to look at. And it's not something that I really have to have an answer on, but Tony is going to probably need that answer before long. He's going to need it probably in the next couple of months because we have a lot of stuff, a lot of pieces of equipment. And right now, the way we do it, we just advertise and whoever comes by. So that was the two things that I wanted to talk about.
There is some really good deals on Gov Deals.
Yeah.
It's well worth.
If you can catch it at the right time.
Catch it at the right time, that's the
No,
problem.
you got to watch it. Okay, Mayor Reports Policy added to the agenda by Council Member Angie Arden.
Yeah, I just wanted to, last week you had it on the agenda and you didn't have anything to report. I just wanted to remind you that we need reports. We've not had any in a good while, I think the policy states that when you have a meeting with anybody that's pertaining to city business, that you follow up with in a report with us. I think that would have been helpful with all this grant stuff, just to keep us all in the loop and kind of explain to us, those that's new to this, on the grants. It would probably seem helpful with all these contracts and things that's put on hold right now because it's kind of confusing.
Well, you get those by email, and I can't make sure that you read your email.
Actually, no, I'm not getting them by email.
You should be getting all of them by email.
Well, we're not, so, I mean, have you got any? I don't
Are we talking
know.
about reports or are we talking about?
Anything with the contracts, you get all that by email.
We're not talking about, I'm not talking about contracts, I'm talking about.
So what are you wanting to know, who I've talked to?
Well, no, but.
You have wanted to know
Actually,
that.
if you just wanted to go by the policy, that might help.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
That's a policy, that's not an ordinance.
It's a policy.
It's a policy.
It's a policy and adopted by the.
Find in the charter where it says, I have to go by your policy.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
yeah, there's a difference. But if you put it in ordinance form, we'll look at it. But I do send mayor reports, you've gotten them, and I noticed that nobody was opening them other than Rhonda and Bill Sowers would open his.
And I'm sure if you want to know anything, you can always call Donna. She always.
You can always
answers the
ask.
phone.
And I think that every engineer and every grant writer and everybody we've talked to has come to the meetings and even talked to you about it, and you still have mentioned that you don't understand the grants.
I actually do understand them now, but the issue here is we've got a policy, so I will verify whether or not you have to follow the policy.
You got a charter?
It's in the charter too.
Where?
I'll get that to you too.
That would be great. Had a couple of attorneys look at it, they've not found it. Where?
Well, it's there.
Okay, Mr. Martinez, is he here?
Yep.
So you're Mr. Martinez? What's that? What's that?
I'll be brief tonight. This is the update on the Blue Ridge Business Association. The first thing is our membership meeting this week. At one of the previous council meetings, I mentioned that we were seeing an increase in shoplifting and security issues downtown. So we have our meeting next Thursday, a week from this Thursday, 6 o'clock at the Arts Center, and we have a presentation by investigator Gary Edwards from the Fannin County Sheriff's Department, who has a tremendous amount of knowledge that he can share with our businesses to let them know how to take safety measures, how to recognize both email and telephone fraud, how to evaluate suspicious people coming in their stores, what to do, etc. So we're real excited about that. The other thing, we are now 6 weeks away from Light Up Blue Ridge. It's coming quickly. And I just wanted to make sure, I know that we have not made any decisions yet on the master plan, and some of the critical issues are still hovering: toilets, trash pickup, visibility of trash receptacles. Also, the doggy stations that you all put out are used tremendously. And I think it may be good if we could put one more all the way down by the stage. There are no doggy stations in that whole end of the park, with exception of right by Church Street. Last Friday, when I walked from one end of town to the other, every single one of the doggy stations, the bags were empty. I called y'all and y'all came and filled them up before the Arts Center Park. But it's going to be busy every weekend now for the next few weeks, and I just want to make sure that, people are using them, which is great. And then the last thing has to do with East Main Street, which again I know is a hot button for everyone. Are there any emergency measures, Band-Aid measures that can be taken to make East Main Street a little more safe and presentable? Whatever that may be.
They've done some things. They've actually ordered some boxes to get those meters down level with the concrete and things like that. And I know Mark's worked on a few sections to level out the concrete, but I can have Roy go back down with Mark and look and see if they see anything else that they can't widen the sidewalks.
Right.
I know that's something you'd like to see done, but at this point.
Well, that brings up that same issue, which is if we can have help from the police to please keep people from putting things on the sidewalks, the stores. There are a couple of areas of the sidewalk where the sidewalk's only 4 feet wide, and when they put mannequins out there, people are having to go out in the street to get around the mannequins. And with the crowds that we have coming in, with the train getting ready to run three rides a day at 500 people each ride, that's a lot of people coming to town. So, anyway, that was it. Thank you very much.
Something on the same subject, we were talking to Kelsey Dixon earlier that we had put some poles and some chains down there on East Main Street. Somebody had stolen the chain or something.
They keep breaking it. We had done that to try to do some motorcycle parking in there to keep people from stepping off of that, but they keep breaking it. And now they've torn up our poles. Somebody's been leaning on one of them or done
Apparently
something.
somebody hit their car door and was upset about it because he couldn't see it. So, I mean, we might need to, I don't know, we might need to address that issue.
And Roy, I think you can probably get working on the sidewalk ordinance and making sure that everyone's in compliance with that.
I think Johnny is the one that does the code. No, that would be Johnny. He's the one that can write citations. You can't write citations, can you? Roy? They didn't give you a ticket, Buzz? I did. Brendan Walsh.
Hi, I'm Brendan Walsh. I know a few of you last week, and I appreciate the opportunity to come back and speak again. Really what the point of speaking here tonight is to help answer any questions and give a little bit more of a visual to some of the things that Roy had mentioned previously in the changing of the zoning ordinance. I think that the main goal, and when you think about this, of changing the zoning ordinance, what you guys are looking to do is you've built a great base here in downtown Blue Ridge of thriving businesses, walkability, which are very important and things that the market is driving towards and what people are wanting nowadays. I think one missing component are residential households in the central business district or in the downtown district. And part of what we're trying to do at 50 and 209 West Main Street is add to that while providing some more residential routes in the area, in the neighborhood, while also providing some commercial square footage as well. And part of the visual that I've created, and I hope you guys can see it, the projector last week was a little shady, but I was hoping to show you guys here is some of the things that Roy kind of talked about. If you look at my drawing on the right here, The light brown, which is at the bottom, this is West Main Street that you see here, would be all of your potential commercial square footage. So you can put that commercial square footage right on the sidewalk, that's on your first level there. That engages the street, that gets people walking in and out of, whether they be restaurants or shops or offices, from that standpoint. The darker red, which you see on the drawing, would be more designated towards your residential units. Now this is what the property would look like on the main level. On the second level, all that brown would go away, would be all red from that standpoint. On the third level, would be all red as well with residential units only. In the second drawing here, it kind of gives you an aerial view of what it would look like as a 3-story product on this site. Don't focus so much on the architectural at this standpoint. These are purely conceptual to give you guys an idea of sizing and massing. As we kind of take the next steps in this process, we'd be able to look at more details of the architectural drawing from that standpoint. The second thing that you see on this drawing and on this drawing as well is green space or amenity space. So you see we have a large courtyard designed in between 2 of the buildings on the parcel there. Part of that courtyard can be used as amenity space. Second part, it can be used as potential stormwater and water quality management from that standpoint, putting those sort of things underground. All have the potential there. The key being the ordinance obviously has to change for some of these things to happen. As far as anything else kind of Roy mentioned and a possibility I'd like to approach you guys about, I don't know if it's this meeting, but I'd like to have the conversation, is the potential of closing Messer Street as a through street. What I'd like to look at is doing that is developing maybe a pocket, what I like to refer to as pocket parks. That'd be a little area where we could do something, whether it be with pavers or hardscapes or whatever, to create another gathering area for this side of downtown. I know you have a lot of it on the other side, but just an opportunity to take advantage of a street that doesn't seem to be used quite often. Other than that, I know I'm on a 5-minute time limit here, but I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Do you have any questions?
And Ms. Hart, to address the parking concern, which is a viable concern in a different board, when we look at a development like this, part of it we would go into, it's really market driven. You'd be absolutely crazy to invest your money in building a bunch of 6,000 or 10,000 square foot units with multiple bedrooms. Instances in the past when I've dealt with that, we've gone into developments that started with 2,000 square foot units. So let's say you do have someone that wants to come in and purchase a bigger unit. Well, you have 2 parking spots designed for each one of those 2,000 square foot units. Say if someone comes in and wants to purchase 2 of those or 3 of those and mold them into 1 unit or a 6,000 square foot unit from that standpoint, those parking spots would be deeded to that same units as all. So you'd end up with potentially 6 parking spots for an example like that. So a lot of that's kind of market driven. You wouldn't be taking a huge risk going into a project of this size, trying to go to market with something that's kind of really out of market from that standpoint. But if you do get that select buyer, that unique buyer that says, hey, I got to have something bigger, you kind of just combine those 2 units, and then those 2 parking spots would kind of follow that square footage, if that makes sense. So,
Thank you.
thank you for the time.
Patrick Crane.
My comment has already been addressed. Thank you for your time.
Well, I have a question for you. You say you represent the Concerned Citizens Group. Is it just you, or is there other folks that you represent?
There's several people as input.
Okay. Who are those folks?
I will get back with you.
You will what?
I'll get back with you.
You will get back with me? When will you get back with me? Because this has been going on for years, and I'd like to go ahead and
In a
get
reasonable
it.
amount of time.
Do what?
In a reasonable amount of time.
24 hours? Is that
I couldn't
reasonable?
say.
48 hours or something? Because I think if you're going to accuse somebody and try to slander them, you really probably ought to give them enough information as to where you're getting your information. So that was my question. But your Concerned Citizens list, I would really like to have that. So, and I had a question. Do you have a copy of the state bidding laws? So have you read it? Do you know what it says? Okay. So do you know what it means? Do you have an example of something I violated it with? Just curious. But you put it in your complaint, so that's why I was asking.
Could you explain to the rest of us about the state bidding laws? Would you mind? Just so we're all aware, everyone in the audience.
My comments have already been addressed this evening. Thank you for your time.
Just before we spend a lot of money, taxpayer money, it'd be nice if your complaints were valid or something to really waste the money on. But anyway, all right, Mr. Ryan, I look forward to hearing from you.
I guess there's nothing going forward on the water because the engineer, you can't retain the engineer because of some time scheduling, is that correct?
We can retain the engineer, they just chose not to go ahead with the contract to get the 20% forgiveness back. So if it's $1 million project, we would get $200,000 back, so they made the motion tonight.
That's just grant money you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what they
You
made the
could
motion.
engage him if you wanted to.
Yes.
We've already approved to engage him in the engineering there.
When was that done?
Several months ago. You were here. You were
I was at the meeting, but I don't remember him being engaged. I just remember him being
Yeah,
here.
he's already started preliminary engineering on it.
Because you had, at one of your meetings, said that you had a sort of a bid, you had some sort of qualifications.
Yeah,
And
we
you used
have,
the older qualifications to
Yeah.
make him okay for the next job, right?
we did retain them. I'll make sure and have Kelsey pull that. That's been maybe 2.5 months ago. Yeah. So
Okay, well,
they started
I just
work.
want to make sure it's going, that's all I'm worried
Yeah,
about.
they are.
And-
Wait, wasn't he here this last week?
He was here about water.
We met him at our public hearing there to discuss. He
He was here about water.
He had some issues on, we talked about drainage down there.
They are doing some work and drawing, and of course, they've got the EPD approvals and the,
Yeah, I saw some stuff going on McClure's property, but I don't think that has anything to do with drainage, does it?
yes, he goes that direction.
That's where it comes out.
That's where they take, yeah, but are they taking those trees out of there for drainage, or?
Are they taking trees out of there?
There's trees piled up there, I saw them, I drove by.
Mark said something about clearing out around one end of that, I don't know which, and he said he's going to go clear it out.
No, I did not. You can't do that, that's not our property.
I'm just, he said he cleared out one end of it, so.
You can't just go get on somebody's property
I
and
don't
do
know if he's
something
talking
without
about the
property.
You only got me to bring it up.
Okay, yeah, I need to find out about that, because, now, he was supposed to walk the pipe as far as he could walk it.
Well, and I
And
talked,
the detainees did that, he didn't have to do
well,
that.
I talked to him about that, him and Jim and some of the other guys, and asked them if it had ever been cleaned out, and they said not to their knowledge. Jim said that he went all the way through it about a year ago when him and Mike Hampton was looking at something down there. He said that it was, for the most part, it was clear as far as debris and things like that. He said there might be a board laying in there here and there, but he said that there was a lot of sediment build up. And I talked to Mark, and he said in the large pipe, there's probably 8 to 9 inches of sediment. And that's in the large pipe, so if there's that much nip in the smaller pipe, probably you got that much or more. And Mr. Ryan knows as well as I do that you can't compress water, so that's going to make it back up and back up into town, just that little amount.
So we've been lucky here late, that's why I didn't know if we'd done something or not. It just
Well,
didn't seem like it.
we have cleaned it out. We had a sofa in there, and I think there was an old stove in there or something.
Yeah, you don't find a house.
And then, of course, there was a lot of branches and stuff, but now it's actually backed up even since they cleaned it out. But they go in pretty often, the W10 does that.
But maybe we should look at cleaning all that sediment out also.
Wait a minute, now you're running Mr. Ryan's time out over here.
Sorry, sir. That's something we need to look at, is clean that sediment out.
Okay, Mr. Ryan.
The other question I had is for Roy. On units, the unit would mean it could be a larger building, but you could have 2 units in one building, right? With proper firewalls and compartmentizing them. Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure there weren't going to be 6 or 8 buildings. Just,
Well, there could be multiple buildings, yes.
oh, yeah, but they could be all adjoined.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. That was one of my questions. And my other thing is that I brought it on there. I wanted to register a complaint about an adjacent neighbor on the corner of Messer and Main Street, First Street out there, West First Street. And I had gone to Roy about it, and the building being occupied there, and it's been like that for 20 years that I know of. And I was wondering, does the city have anything planned to say that Do they have a C of O on that building? Do they not have a C of O on that building? Can you occupy that building? Can you not occupy that building? I know it's kind of a red herring, and Mr. Ryan's going to be the guy bringing it up, but I just wanted to bring it before the council because I think it's your responsibility to take care of the community. Thank you.
Roy, it does have a CO, right?
On a temporary pole, don't it?
Oh, it doesn't?
No, it's on a temporary plan.
On a temporary pole for years.
Do you know which building? Okay. I guess that's something we can look at. Kathy Thompson, Friends of the Mineral Springs Walking Park, or Walking Trail, excuse me.
Alma Edmond could not come for the last meeting, and so I'm sort of supposed to answer questions. I understand it. The problem with the walking trail was a question of setbacks and the size of the land at the end of the trail. The end that has all of the history is a small slice of land, and as a result, with a 75-foot setback, we actually could not run the trail. The original plan for the trail included all of the history. It included crossing the road, included a couple parking spaces, included, the springs themselves, and the setbacks didn't allow it. And also what didn't allow it was you were talking about a trenched trail, a very deeply ADA trenched trail, so that nothing of that sort was possible in the historic section. So what happened was the trail was routed back around into areas where it could be done. What we'd like to do is like the Friends of the Library. And the Friends of the Library this weekend raised $1,500 for the library. And they use it to buy books or whatever the library needs. So we're talking, when we had the big opening of the park, we had a lot of people come up afterwards and they wanted to help. The Haight family wanted to help, several individuals, the art center's interested. There's just a bunch of people who are interested in, and what we would be talking about is taking into that area on the other side of the road, and you can put a trail in, you just can't dig it. You can't trench a trail, but you can put an above ground trail in it. So the people from the Benton Mackay, and we have a young man who is a Eagle Scout, wants to help with it as part of the Eagle Scout project, but we can take a trail into there. We can put benches. The people that oversaw the last grant said that it's the size of a post hole digger. So that the way we got those benches inside that 75 foot was not to put a concrete platform, but to simply dig a trench hole, fill it with concrete, and stick the bottom of, it was the way that those seats are built. But then the other issue is that you guys over the years have many times cleaned out that spring, and leaves come down in it. So it needs to have a roof over it, because it doesn't do you any good to clean it out with that roof. We'd like to put another history sign over it. I think you saw the list of the kind of things we'd like to do. It's a give and take. Sometimes you would be responsible for paying it. It's up to you whether or not you wanted to. Sometimes we would have fundraisers. It's the idea to complete the park, to finish it, and to do the history part of it. And it's a give and take, It's a freebie, basically. You get a lot of volunteer work.
So are you asking for you to be able to collect money to do it? Is that?
What we're asking for is we want you to know that we want to set up a group, and we will continue to come back to you. We want to have a meeting in November, just ideas, what do you want to do, what do you think meeting, and then skip to January. And, so we would be coming back to you. A group we don't even have a group yet. Elma and I will be forming. We've done this before. We started the Art Center, Roma. So we're going to try to do the same thing for the park. And so it's very fluid right now, and we will always come to you and work with you. We just want you to know that what we're trying to do and make sure that you're on board and you're okay with it. I don't make waves.
So does anybody have any questions? Okay, executive sessions. Does anyone need executive session? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All in favor?